investors, bonjour, this is Mike Leroux, founder of Dividend Stocks, passionate investor, and a guy that just spent the entire month of January in Vietnam. So I flew on December 31st with my family. We visited the entire country from north to south. We did like 10 places in 30 days. We had lots of fun there. I made a couple of videos while I was in Vietnam actually. If you haven't seen them, go back to my YouTube channel and pick up the one where I cross the streets in Hanoi. It is quite a sports there. We had lots of fun with kids trying to go across all the scooters everywhere. And it's kind of funny because if you just like head straight forward and then you look at your path and you don't look into their eyes, the scooters are just like passing you by around. They're like just bees or something, just trying to avoid you. So it's quite fun. So today we're going to review my income report for the month of January. But first I wanted to do a little bit of a parenthesis about the coronavirus and everything that happened during the month of January. It was kind of fun because on my side, I was traveling, I was having fun, trekking, eating food in Vietnam. My favorite one is bún chả. If you've been to Vietnam, please hit the comment section and tell me what's your favorite dish from this country. So that aside, I was very busy, like enjoying life, and I didn't take much time to look at my portfolio during that month. What I realized is the portfolio was going up to a certain level when the coronavirus news spread across the world, and then everything went very hectic for like a week. And now, at the time of recording this video, it's early in February. The earnings season is going well, and it seems that since companies are still making money, job is still growing. The stock market just like take away this news cycle and jump to another one. So basically what I want to say here is whenever they have like important news, and I'm not saying that the coronavirus is an important or not an important disease. I am not a doctor, I am not a specialist in the epidemic, but honestly, unless it kills over 1 million people, it won't have any effect on the economy over the long term. It might have a bad quarter for a few companies because they have business in China and now China is being isolated. But in the end, it doesn't mean much if you're holding your stocks for the long term. And for that, I'm going to tell you about a few things in my portfolio today. I'm going to tell you how I beat the market in 2019 and how my portfolio went up in value by more than $37,000. All that after the intro. So in my introduction, I told you that the coronavirus didn't matter at all. In fact, what really matters is not the price fluctuation from one month to another in your portfolio. What really matters is your dividend growth. A company that is increasing its dividend is a company that is healthy. So if you look at revenue growth, earning growth, and dividend growth, which I call the dividend triangle, if you found companies that shows 3 strong vectors like this, then you're pretty much sure that going forward, those companies will do well. So now, what happens when you review your portfolio and there's a company that kind of like forget to increase their dividend? That happens. There are like companies like the Dividend Aristocrats and the Dividend Kings that shows 25 and 50 consecutive years with dividend increase. But you have also other companies that they increase their dividend from time to time, but you know, sometimes management get busy, they forgot about it. And this, according to my investing strategy, this is a red flag. This means it's not an automatic sell, but it's an invitation for investigation. And while I was reviewing my dividend payment this month, I noticed that Disney failed to increase their dividend. Well, it's not news because they declared that in December that the next payment will not be increased. But I wanted to tackle this topic today just because Disney has been such a great company in my portfolio. I've held it for like a long time. It's been doing well. And then when I had this pension plan portfolio in 2017, I added more to this company. And today, I feel like management is letting me down because they haven't increased their dividend. On the other side, they're only paying like 1.25% yield. So you definitely don't count on Disney to pay your utility bill at the end of the month. So what do we do from there? Should I sell my shares of Disney? Should I consider why? So what do we do when a company doesn't increase its dividend? So what I did is I went back to Disney and found out why in the world management decided to not increase their payment. Because historically their payout ratio is very low. They're making money. There's not really an obvious reason, right? But when you go deeper and you look at their debt level, you will see that the Fox asset acquisition for $71 billion changed the entire balance sheet. As you can see on that graph, there's a huge spike where Disney had to contract lots of debt to buy Fox assets. So does it mean that now Disney won't increase its dividend going forward? Does it mean that it was a bad acquisition? Not really. If you look at the history of acquisition for Disney in the past 20 years, you'll notice that they do an amazing job. What you can see here is all the major acquisition that they did in the past. Some of my favorites are obviously ABC and ESPN back in 1995. This acquisition created a huge growth vector for at least a decade. And then the company did some major acquisition to boost its movie business, such as Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars. And each time they made those acquisitions, yes, they dispersed like several billions of dollars, but they have done what they do best, which means acquire more content, combine it into their empire, and then create multiple streams of income coming out from the same content, from the same idea. Today, if you look at the box office for the past, I think, 10 years, Disney is totally dominating the box office. With Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar's, they are pretty much all over the place. But it doesn't stop at the box office. After that, they have their theme parks, they have apparels, they have action figures and t-shirts and all of those other things. So basically, they're generating so much more money with those acquisitions. Obviously, when you disperse $71 billion, you still need a few years to digest this acquisition. And this is most likely why they didn't increase their dividend this year. The second reason why Disney is busy with its cash flow right now, it's developing their streaming services. So they now have launched ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. We had the first results for Disney Plus, like 26 million members so far. It's a great success. Analysts are very happy with it. The company is very happy with it. And do not forget that Disney, through the Fox asset deal, they also took an important stake in Hulu, which is already the second largest streaming service in North America. So when you think about it, I don't think Disney will kill Netflix. I don't think they will take the first position, but they are now well in place to be a solid number 2 and generate lots of income. As opposed to Netflix, Disney doesn't need the streaming service to generate money. It generates money from their theme park, their media business, their movies, and so on. So basically what they do is they're just adding another stream of income, and they have an impressive track record of creating success at the box office or miniseries as well. So I'm pretty sure that going forward, you'll have more original content being published on Disney Plus and ESPN, and those shows or series will attract even more members. So for now, I'm willing to forgive Disney for not increasing my paycheck because it creates more growth vector. Don't forget that according to financial theory, a company should distribute a dividend only if they don't know what to do with their money, only if they cannot find growth vectors to generate even more money for shareholders. So when they find a way to generate value, well, then they can keep that money, and do it. So throughout streaming services and the acquisition of Fox assets, Disney is definitely a winner for several years to come. Now, going back to my portfolio, wanted to show a small recap of 2019. What I did is I took the numbers between February 1st, 2019 and February 6th of 2020. And during that period, I made $37,810.44 in profit. That is an accumulation of two things, basically capital growth and obviously dividend payment. It's a Lira account. I cannot add any money into the account. So the full $38,000 I made was just stocks going up in value and paying me dividend. This is the equivalent of 28.74% return for a full year. When I compare it to the US market, I beat the market by about 3%. And when I compare it to myself to the Canadian market, I crushed the market by 11%. And keep in mind that I was already doing very well in 2017 and 2018 as well. So it's been my third year in a row where I beat the market with my pension portfolio. Now let's look into my holdings to see what's happening here. As you can see on my Canadian holdings, some of my best performing stocks are Alimentation Couche-Tard, CAE, and also Enbridge. And I wanted to attract more attention on Enbridge today, just because Enbridge has been a loser for at least a year in my portfolio before it surged on the market. So sometimes you just have to pick your stocks according to your investment strategy and be patient. It doesn't mean that when you buy shares of a company that those shares are going to skyrocket the next day or the next month. Sometimes it goes down. I remember that Enbridge was at one point minus 10, minus 15% in my portfolio, and then it went back up. So that doesn't really matter as long as your investment thesis is good and as long as each quarter you review that and you make sure that everything is in order. Now moving on to my US holdings, as you can see, I guess it's part talent and part luck, but Apple, Microsoft, and Visa has been like incredibly strong winners in my portfolio. And this time I want to attract your attention to Microsoft. Interesting enough, I bought Microsoft at the end of 2017. I paid $75 a share, and at that time, everybody was telling me that Microsoft was overvalued. I should wait until it reaches like $60 or $55 and then it would be a good price. Well, guess what? Chances are Microsoft will never trade at $55 ever again, unless they split the stock, right? So whenever you find a great company, forget about valuation. Forget about what analysts say. They don't know anything. The only question that you should ask yourself is, if I buy shares of Microsoft today, will they worth more in 10, 15, 20, 25 years? If the answer is yes, then buy them. You don't know what's going to happen in the stock market. Maybe the coronavirus will kill 50 million people during next summertime, and then Microsoft will tumble at $25. Well, you know what? Those things could happen. But I am pretty sure that in 20 years from now, Microsoft will worth more than $200 a share. And for that reason, I would still buy more shares of Microsoft today if I hadn't hit in my portfolio already. Now, moving forward to the last part of this video is obviously the dividend income report. In terms of dividend, January is quite low. I made $110. It's an increase of about 4% versus last year. So basically, I only had like 3 companies paying me dividend on that month. So it's not very impressive. But what is very nice on this graph that you can see is that I'm adding another color on the column, which means that now I'm entering in my 4th year. So I had 2017, 18, 19, and now 2020 in this graph. And pretty much each new color is always higher than the previous one, which is very interesting. And keep in mind, I'm not adding any dollar in that portfolio. So it's just purely companies increasing their dividend payment that I have nothing else to do with this one. Moving on to the second chart, what is even more interesting is basically the cumulative of all the dividend payment I received since I started this portfolio in September 2017. So basically, basically right now I'm showing over $7,000 paid in dividend. My portfolio at that time was valued at $108,000, and now it's close to $170,000. So it's a huge jump. The market was good with me, but I'm also made a good decision. So now in the upcoming month, what I'll be doing with this portfolio is I'm going to track very carefully UPS. It seems that there's a lot of problem there, a lot of concern about international growth. Amazon is coming into play as well, which if you look at FedEx, it has been a total disaster. The company didn't even increase their dividend last year. And I'm not too sure I want to wait to reach that level with UPS. So right now I'm juggling with the thought of selling UPS. I'd like to know, what are your thoughts about UPS right now? Hit the comment section. Tell me if you keep UPS in your portfolio or not, or if there's any other holdings that you think that I should get rid of. At this time, I'm very happy with my portfolio, but UPS is probably the only stock that I'm not too sure about. So hit the comment section, click on the subscribe button until the next video, which will be next week, obviously, and I'll keep reporting my income report as well. In the meantime, stay invested.